Hey everybody, back again with another video. This time it's going to be on my 2013 Subaru BRZ. It's my second Subaru. I like them, so I'm going to be sticking with it for a little while. This is kind of like my track car, full time. It doesn't really see a lot of road use, so I'm going to modify it as such, and I plan on actually keeping this car for a number of years. If you know my track record and you know me, I keep a car maybe for maybe 5 years, the longest. But I generally have them swapping around. I just like to try different things and see how it all turns out. So I traded in my WRX and I did a little bit of looking around and I picked up a BRZ. Um, when I got it kind of like in the beginning ish of COVID, like that summer when we were all still in lockdown, and they were trying to sell it for I think it was a little bit less than $1,000 off of what the original asking price was. So I was like, to hell with it. I got the bread. I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna get it. So that's exactly what I did. I got in. I drove it around. I liked it. I liked how it felt, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna buy it." So I ended up getting it. But actually, what I was looking for initially, when I was looking for a dedicated track car, I mean, I was all over the place. But I set a hard cap at about like $20,000. I wasn't going to go above $20,000. I was considering trying to find like a 350Z or 370Z, but the Z that I wanted needed to have the rev up engine or the HR engine, not the DE. Now I know maybe some people don't know, over the life of the 350Z it had a couple of different engines. The first one that came out in like the 0304s was the DE engine, and that was had like 286 horsepower or something like that, and it's close to the amount of torque. But the ideal engine I wanted was the HR engine, which had 307. And then it also had a higher rev limit and that kind of stuff. So it was a more sporty, more revy engine that I wanted in the car. But I couldn't really find one in decent condition for the amount of money I wanted to spend. Everything I found around here was either an automatic, or it was a DE with a manual, or a DE with an automatic. And I was like, I don't want that. So I also considered buying a C5 Vet, but they weren't as cheap as I would like to. And then I started looking at car running costs as far as brake pads and wheels and tires and all that kind of stuff. While the Corvette in general is pretty much like a Honda Civic as far as the stuff you can do to it, I didn't want it to become a money pit, right? I wanted just to put some tires on it. I wanted to put some brakes on it, and then if I did a little stuff here and there, cool. But I just wanted something basic to start off with, and I never had a car on the performance level as far as track stuff as a C5. So I thought that might be kind of jumping in the deep pool and me not knowing how to swim. So I figured I'd start off a little bit lower than that. But the common denominator in all of my choices were they had to be NA, just for simplicity's sake. And what's good is a track car that is always working. I want something that turn the key, drive it, gets there, does its job, goes back home. I have nothing but love for turbo cars, but there's an added complexity to them with the cooling and keeping everything running happy and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want that. I just wanted to put some gas in the car. Maybe if it started overheating a little bit, you throw a radiator on it just to be safe. But yeah, I just wanted something that was simple, right? Now, I know what you're going to say next, but it's so slow. Compared to the WRX and the Speed 3, yeah, it is. The straight line performance just is not there. It was like transitioning from like a thoroughbred racehorse to a pack mule. But I saved some cash since my wheels and tires from my WRX fit my BRZ, right? I mean, there's no real comparison in straight line speed, but when you're doing track driving, straight line speed is not the only thing that you have to take in consideration. Uh, fast track to me getting to the seat of the BRZ. I also lucked out since the previous owner put on some snow tires on the OEM wheels. That saved me a whole shitload of money, so I was happy about that. And then my track tires would be my old tires from my WRX. It took some time for me to adjust to the rear wheel drive platform, but a few autocrosses later, I was pretty comfortable. I've driven in my various classes, in my various instruction of what instruction sessions, I guess is the best way to put it. And those cars have been rear wheel drive cars. So I had one, I was in a C5 Z06. I had another one, I was in a 335, and another one where I was in a Porsche Boxster, which is mid-engine rear drive. So, I have some familiarity with it. I just needed to get the nuts and bolts of how to drive a rear wheel drive car that was mine. And as any car you buy, there's always a learning curve for you to get the maximum potential out of the car that you buy. I didn't go mod crazy with it. Wiser now in my older age, I wanted to actually run and not sit in the garage or sit in the parking lot. I did driveline bushings, brake lines, pads, because stopping is very good, especially when you're on a track and you need to go from 100 miles an hour down to about 30 to make a corner. You want good pads that'll take a beating and keep on working. So very good. So I got Carbotech pads all around. They do suck in the cold. I'll have to happily admit they need to get up to temperature. So once they are up to temp and the squealing stops, they took 20-minute sessions at Waterford Hills, completely fade free. I had no issues whatsoever. That also has to do with the fact that the car is extremely light, so there's a lot less car for it to stop, right? So you have a big old heavy car, you're going to need big old brakes, and then they'll heat up faster because you're trying to stop a massive thing moving at speed and bring it down to a slower speed. So that's going to make a lot of heat. And since the car is lighter, it stops a lot better. So that's good. I did add an exhaust system. So I did an NVIDIA N2 exhaust system. It's not too loud or barky or anything, which I like. I did an overpipe, and I went with an equal length header. No, it doesn't have the boxer rumble, the kind of thing, but it's better, from what I've seen, it's better at higher RPMs where I keep the car most of the time when I'm driving it on the track. I mean, it has a little bit more power. I mean, it's not, your ass dyno might be like, oh yeah, I can feel it. You can't feel 5 horsepower, but it makes me feel better. So the hell with it. That is as far as I can do. I feel better about my car. I don't give a shit what you have to say about whichever header sounds. I like it the way it is, and that's it, right? So after I got those put on, I went with Ecutech, and I got a map from Delicious Tuning. And so it's running a 93 tune right now. It does feel a little bit quicker, yes, especially down in the mid-range where you have the infamous torque dip. And from what I can feel, it pulls a lot stronger in the mid-range. Not too much difference up top, but in the middle, it definitely feels like it makes a difference, especially when you're in certain driving conditions, like when I'm on the track and I'm going. If you're familiar with Waterford Hills, if you're not, watch one of my videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a section where I'm in third gear. I'm still learning what gear to be in where. When I'm in third gear and I'm going up the hill. Going up the hill, the RPMs drop after I'm leaving that corner. Going up the hill, it definitely pulls harder going up that hill. And I can definitely tell that. So that was a welcome addition. The plan is to get some suspension under it. I'm shopping around for coilovers and roll bars. And to finish off the power adders, I just picked up an intake. I also put that on my video, my YouTube page, so you can check out which intake I picked up. And then I'm going to get a flex fuel kit and tune it for E85 93 blend or whatever that is. And that'll be pretty much all the power mods. The thing is an absolute joy to drive. It's light, it's agile, and with the RE71s on it, you could just throw it into corners all day and it doesn't really get upset. I think there's way too much tire on the on the car. I mean, I have to do something really stupid to get that thing to step out sideways. I've done it on autocrosses, not on the track. Autocross, the only thing you're going to hit is cones and people, both of which are squishy. I don't recommend you do it, but yeah, a barrier is not good to hit. A cone, yeah, you'll live. But yeah, I tend to push it harder in autocross, and like I said, man, I could just throw it into corners recklessly, and the thing hangs on. Um, she hasn't bit me yet, but there's a few times where it got upset while I was in the autocross. But I was able to keep it together. The car is really responsive and it takes driver inputs very well. It's extremely forgiving car. So if you're trying to get into track driving or you're trying to get into autocrossing and you can find yourself a BRZ, a used one, I don't know what they're going for now with the current COVID prices and all that kind of stuff. The prices probably shot up like everything else, but I mean, I got mine for under $15,000 and it had 80,000 miles on it. So, as far as I was concerned, that was a steal. The seats are pretty comfortable on there's just enough room to get my wheels and tires in the back. I mean, the winter set, I can fit all four in there without anything crazy, but for my summer set, I mean, they're 255s. So yeah, one is riding in the passenger seat, and the other three are in the back. But I can get them in there. Just gonna be me, as you know, it's that way anyway. But I'm the only one that can drive it. Um, the back seats are just there for show. Honestly, I'm in my sitting position, and I'm not a tall guy. I'm not over 6 feet tall. I am 5'10", and nobody can sit behind me. I mean, if somebody sits behind you, you got to be like 5'4", 5'3", in order for somebody to get in behind you. And even in a comfortable position for my passenger, nobody's sitting behind the passenger seat either. So technically speaking, Subaru, I don't know why the hell you put back seats in it. Maybe you're trying to sell it to a shorter person, but if you are of average height and weight, no, it's effectively a two-seater, pretty much. As far as the seats go, they're comfortable and they're heated, so that's good for the winter. I live in Michigan, so heated seats are good, and they're pretty comfortable seats. They're not as bad as my WRX seats were, where you're more foot buried into the dead pedal and holding on to the steering wheel to in order so you're not flying all over the place. But the BRZ seats are getting snug now. It also might be because I'm getting fat, but they hold me in place pretty well so that I don't have to hang on for dear life on the steering wheel and keep my foot planted on the dead pedal so I'm not sliding around all over the fucking place. But to that end, I like the seats a lot. Would I switch them out for something else? Yes, I will, probably eventually, but for right now, they're pretty damn good. My local track is Waterford Hills, as I said before, and you know, my times are always dropping, which is a great feeling when you see that happen, and you can always tell like when you get more comfortable, right? So at first, when you get more and more comfortable with the car, you see your time dropping by seconds. So you might go out and do a 127. And then as your next session goes, you're down to 126, 125, 124. And it's just that when you start hitting that line of what the car is capable of and what you are capable of as a driver, there's always room for improvement. So you can make a suspension tweak or better tires or more power or whatever it is like that. But the main thing is that if you are consistently lapping the car and not really getting any improvements, it might be time to increase your skill set. Because I mean, there's guys that have the BRZ and they are at least I saw one guy, he's at least 2 seconds faster a lap than I am. And I'm sitting there like, where the hell is this guy getting all that time? But that's on me as a driver to do that. So you always want to try to improve the person behind the wheel before you just throw mods at the car. That's my rule of thumb for that. I mean, it does get frustrating, but that's also the fun of it, right? Trying to chain together the perfect lap. And, sometimes you'll lose a tenth or 2 tenths here, and you make up 1 or 2 tenths over there. So your lap times kind of stay in a range, right? So I'm currently stuck in a range myself, but I'm just trying to talk to people and watch videos and learn and become a student of driving so that next time I do go out there, I can find the tenths here, the tenths there, the tenths there that will make my time drop even further than it already is. Hopefully this year I get to go out on track and I'll get bumped out of the beginners group because as you saw, my one of my last videos that I put up at Waterford Hills, I was still in the beginners group and I lost my shit just a little bit and I started cussing. Um, so hopefully next time I'll get put into a intermediate group that, it's always good. I mean, people will pass you, but you should use that as a learning experience because if you can keep up with a guy that passes you, you can follow him and see what they do that's different from what you're doing. And then you learn from that, right? So I'm not the fastest guy out there, but I am willing to learn to be better. So now, having driven all of these cars, both Z models, the 350 and the 370, and I haven't driven either of the models, the 370 or the 350 on track, but I've driven them spiritedly. I'm not going to say where and when because, legal. So I will have to say I'm extremely happy with the BRZ. Again, it's not as fast, but to me, it is far more competent of a car to drive hard. And it's a lot more forgiving. It feels lighter. It feels more nimble. And as far as consumables go, a set of tires for my BRZ, comparing the same brand, is significantly cheaper to run than either of those two cars. I mean, as I said before, smaller car, smaller brakes, smaller wheels, smaller tires, etc., etc., etc. It's a good track car if you can't afford what good. Well, I mean, it's a good track car, and what good is a good track car if you can't afford to put it on the damn track? So I know some guys go out and buy M3, M4, and Porsche this and Corvette that, but if you have the money to spend $2,000, $2,500 on a set of tires, by all means, brother, do your thing. But if you just want to get out there and have some fun and just dip your toe into it, don't go off the fucking deep end right off the bat. Buy something that is manageable. Buy something that you could develop your skill set with and then gradually move up. That's how I would say. I think I'm going to keep this car for a good while as it's quickly becoming the new Miata. And I mean, you have parts, you have engine swaps, and it's becoming a Lego car at this point. I mean, there's a massive aftermarket for the BRZ. Not as much as a Miata is, but I don't like convertibles, and that's the end of it, so I'm not going to ever buy a Miata. I will do an engine swap. Well, I don't say I will. I should say if I would do an engine swap, I would have to go with the K Miata kit. They make a full kit for it. You can get a K20, K24 in it, a Frankenstein K-Series engine. But it's not really practical for right now. It would be a nice dream, but it's not really practical for right now. So E85 will have to do until I find out what power, and find out what power I can make with E85. And if I hit a ceiling that I don't like, I'm not a force induction guy when it comes to running a track car. I've said that before. But I would much rather run a nice NA setup and not have to deal with the extra plumbing and all that other crap. But, I mean, we'll see what happens for this summer. There's a lot of different changes going on in my life right now. So, you just got to kind of adapt and do the best you can with what you got. So, would I recommend anybody who is trying to get into autocrossing or track days buying a BRZ? Fuck yes. Please do. Go out, get one. Get yourself some tires, even if it's just on the stock wheels. And if it's the stock wheels, put a good set of tires on it, put some brakes on it, put some fluid in it, and just buy a helmet and just come on out, man. Or go out to wherever you have a local event and just drive. I mean, if you don't know, then you ask somebody. You want somebody to ride along with you, or you want some pointers. Most people at track days are very friendly, and they have no problem talking cars or talking shop with anybody. So yeah, man. So far, is it my favorite car that I've owned so far? Yeah, kind of. Well, I would say yeah, it's the top two. I would say definitely the top two. Uh, then the tie would be the other Subaru, the WRX. Just for the simple fact that there are not a lot of other cars that you can buy nowadays that can do as much as a WRX can. I mean, that is a dwindling field. I think the only thing that is an all wheel drive, I mean, the only other all wheel drive four-door sedans that you can buy that are somewhat affordable. I'm not talking about Beamers and Audis and Mercs and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about relatively affordable cars. I mean, you had the Evo, which is now gone. You have um, the Golf R, which is more expensive. That's more of the STI. And yeah, I mean, they have the GR Corolla maybe coming to the US. There's rumors, but it would have to be my two Subarus are probably on par for the best cars that I've ever owned. So again, track car, by all means, get a BRZ. If you need a car for everyday driving and you want to do some track foolishness, get a WRX. You won't be disappointed. So that's my video for today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or that kind of crap, just leave it in below. Share it, like it, subscribe, please. And yeah, y'all take it easy and stay warm. And if you live in Florida or some other place, kiss my ass. I don't know, I'm just playing. Love y'all. Later.